to the Health Eagle Show. This is our 5th year of presenting Health Eagle on a weekly basis, and we've been reaching out to over 26,800 clients one-on-one every week to reach optimum health and improve their lives. Here we are, Endocrine System Part 12, the hormones attraction, creating the mood. So where have we been so far? We've been down this road pretty long, but we needed to do that. We started out talking about relationships and nutrition and great relationships, and we've built upon that with the knowledge of how our endocrine system works and the creation of hormones that affect us every day. And now we've reached the culmination section where we've got hormones and attraction. And this is how we want to get to the next step. We do this because we want everybody to live fully a healthy and happy life, to be able to be their fullest no matter what their age. We do this through education and training, and we've been doing and training about glands and hormones and what they do. The endocrine system is made up of glands and thus hormones that they secrete. Although the endocrine glands are primarily hormone producers, the brain, the heart, the lungs, liver, kidney, thymus, the thymus, the gastrointestinal mucosa, and placenta also produce and release hormones. Hormones are chemical transmitters, which means that they act slower and longer than do the signals come from the nervous system. Okay, the hormones are released into the bloodstream and to target organs and target cells. Hormones send information instruction on how these cells and organs should operate. Now, we went through the ovarian and menstrual cycles last week, but what we want to do now is we're going to tie this all together into the learning for today, which is the hormones that build upon attraction. And we want to highlight that with this and note that you get right before ovulation, which is right here around day 14. It's about a day-long event. And then you have rising estrogen. You also have the luteinizing hormone released from a pituitary gland, which spikes right in here, causing the ovulation. And then right before ovulation, there is a rise in the testosterone of each woman, and that is to enhance the desire for copulation or sex. In the process of attachment and attraction, we have this cycle of lust, we have attraction, and then we have attachment. And each one has hormones that are associated with those feelings. And we'll be going through this process right here. We'll go through lust, attraction, and then attachment, and touch upon each one of these particular hormones and how they act in your body. Lust, or the creating of the fire inside. We have got the estrogens, the testosterones, the androgens, and the cortisol. Lust is defined as the drive to have or experience sex, referred to as the sex drive, or libido. Libido, you've heard me use that term before. Libido is characterized by the craving for sexual gratification and is associated primarily with hormones, estrogen and androgens. The sex drive evolved to motivate individuals to seek sexual union with the appropriate partner. Lust increases with estrogen and testosterone levels in both the males and females. These hormones motivate us to find a mate and are responsible for our sex drives. The hypothalamus of the brain plays a big role in stimulating the production of testosterone and estrogen in the testes and ovaries. While these hormones are often stereotyped as male and female, both play roles in both men and women. Remember that both men and women need both of those hormones, and therefore they're not exclusively male or female. Testosterone increases libido in just about everyone. The effects are less pronounced with estrogen, but most women report being more sexually motivated around the time they ovulate, when both estrogen and testosterone levels are at their highest. Not only do the luteinizing hormone and testosterone level increase at ovulation, so does estrogen. A 2016 report found that being on estrogen therapies like menopause or for bone loss created higher sex drive in women. For women, estrogen levels rise before and during ovulation, causing an increase in testosterone, softening of feminizing features, improving body image, female confidence, and this leads to an increase in their sex drive. There is evidence that women take more care to look more alluring during ovulation. It appears that women do select sexier apparel when attending parties and other social events when they are ovulating. There is evidence that testosterone in women is related to the attraction of a romantic partner and a wide range of sexual behaviors. The raised salivary, that's the in your mouth, the test in your mouth, this your saliva, okay, your salivary testosterone in women is associated with increased attraction to male or masculine features. Women's preferences for masculinity in men's voices, faces, and behavior displays changes during the ovarian cycle or ovulation. And it is strongest around ovulation when women's testosterone levels are at their highest. No significant results, however, were found for selecting men's intelligence. Apparently, brains are not a desirable masculine feature during ovulation. High testosterone levels in men are also linked to higher libido. Men's testosterone cycles fluctuate from higher in the morning to lower each evening, giving reason to why more aggressive sex is performed in the morning than in the evening, and why many sex therapists recommend being late for work more often for couples experiencing marital issues due to a lack of sex. According to some studies, the male testosterone level also fluctuates seasonally. Testosterone levels are highest in October and lowest in April. This correlates to there being more spring and summer births and thereby increasing newborn viability or lowering the mortality during the first year of birth. So if the babies are born in the spring and summer, they have a much higher chance of survival long term than if they're born in the late fall or winter. Men also get more possessive of their women and more loving towards them during ovulation. So how do men find out, or how do they tell whether or not women is having their ovulating luteinizing hormone or estrogen surge? The most obvious are visible clues, including an increased flirtatiousness or feminine coquettishness, and I get that from Mila challenging me on the word coquettish. But Dressing more attractively feminine and adding eye-catching adornments. Her voice gets higher, sweeter, and softer, causing a man to have to lean in closer. Her soft tissue becomes more symmetrical, breasts, hips, and cheeks. And skin tones change, becoming more contoured and flushed. Among the most compelling studies of attraction are those concerning smell. In many species, the male couldn't be more direct. Male dogs and apes will sniff females' behinds to discern signs of sexual readiness. The male giraffe will instigate female urination by tapping at her bottom with his nose to check for signs of uterus. Nothing that obvious happens in humans, but men do respond hormonally to the sense of ovulating women. According to research published by the Psychological Science, men who sniffed shirts worn by ovulating women displayed higher levels of testosterone than those who sniffed the shirts of non-ovulating women. These scents are referred to collectively as pheromones. The flight or fight hormone, cortisol, is crucial in the response to stress. Cortisol appears to play a role in squelching testosterone levels when men get stressed. Most men with low self-esteem become stressed around women. The more beautiful, the more stressed. This stress generates cortisol that suppresses their testosterone levels, and in turn, their attractiveness to women is reduced. Confidence is a well-known component in attracting women. Of course, hormone levels and their effects vary between individual men and women. Now I go into attraction. Okay, pheromones affect mood and sexuality. Pheromones are substances which are secreted to the outside by an individual and received by a second individual. Music, lighting, odors, fragrances can alter mood states and psychological arousal. There is evidence that unique agents called pheromones can specifically alter arousal and attraction. Humans excrete or secrete olfactory chemicals via their urine and anal excrement, breath, genitalia, saliva, and skin glands. Pheromones are normally thought to be released by the skin exocrine glands. When it comes to women, some behavioral neuroendocrinologists think some researchers overemphasize the link between women's hormones and their heterosexual relationships. However, has it ever occurred to you to ask, why do women prefer to cuddle up to a man so that their noses are close to a man's armpit? Is it really because of the nurturing security? Or is it to be soothed and awakened sensually by his pheromones? Do men get more or less aggressive sexually before or after cunnilingus? Think about that. Most proponents of human pheromone concept assume that skin glands are the source of the active pheromone agents. All three major skin glands, the apocrine sweat glands, the endocrine sweat glands, the sebaceous glands, can produce chemicals that become odorous. Among the secretions of the apocrine sweat glands are lipids, including cholesterol, sterile esters, triglycerides, diglycerides, fatty acids, and wax esters. These glands become functional around the time of puberty and release their secretions in response to such emotions as anxiety, fear, pain, or sexual arousal. Endocrine hormones, lipids, and exocrine systems expression of pheromones are all tied together. Now, we can get into that details, but I'd like to save that for when we get into the lymphatic system in subsequent presentations. But keep in mind that your lipids, lymphatic system pulls of the residue of your cells plus the hormones and leftovers into the lymphatic system and dumps them back into the bloodstream after they've been polished through your lymph nodes or your lymph nodes in your body to cleanse them out of any impurities. But at the same time, the chemicals also make their way to these exocrine glands and are then excreted. In a 30 August issue of Neuron, a study of men and women found that they react differently to two chemical compounds found in sweat. Research has shown that human sweat, when dabbed on a woman's upper lip, can synchronize menstrual cycles, but they have not isolated the compound responsible. And no one has chemically identified pheromones in humans. So it's a matter of what it looks like in the animal kingdom, and can we relate that back to humans? And are there the same kind of systems within animals as well as in humans? And we are looking at the development of that knowledge as we speak, because it hasn't been that long since 30 August. The Karolinska Institute in Stockholm investigated male and female responses to two hormone-like compounds, a derivative of testosterone and a substance resembling estrogen. Using positron emission tomography, or PET, positron emission tomography, that's a brain scan. They studied blood flow to various parts of the brain while a person breathed in one of the two potential pheromones. They found distinct patterns of brain activity. Males activated the hypothalamus when smelling the estrogen-like compound, but not the testosterone-like compound. Women, on the other hand, reacted to the testosterone-like compound and not to the estrogen compound. Significant decrease in olfactory ability in menopausal women is explained by the decline in sexual hormone levels. It also helps explain the reduced sex drive because they're less able to perceive the pheromones. Olfaction is the ability to perceive, conduct, and recognize scents and odors. With its numerous connections to the limbic system and reticular formation of the olfactory system affects regulation of numerous vegetative functions, visceral functions, as well as sexual behaviors. Since estrogen and progesterone protect the olfactory function, changes in their levels, in particular, the physiological states in pregnant and postmenopausal women, exert an influence on their ability to feel and recognize smells. Smells help create emotions and adjustment of the visceral and vegetative response, in particular to the emotional states. Also, olfaction represents the connection between higher cortical functions and the endocrine system in the hypothalamus, where the gonadotropin releasing hormone causes the pituitary gland to release the luteinizing hormone and the follicle stimulating hormone, and those generate the what would be the estrogens and the progesterones and the testosterones in women. Attraction is characterized by an increase in energy and the focusing of attention on a preferred mating partner. In humans, attraction is also associated with feelings of exhilaration, intrusive thinking about the beloved, and the craving for emotional union. Attraction occurs in the brain resulting from high levels in the neurotransmitters dopamine and norepinephrine, and with low levels of serotonin. These chemicals enable males and females to distinguish among potential mating partners, conserving their mating energy, prefer genetically superior individuals, and pursue individuals until insemination has been completed. Oxytocin, dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin are often referred to as our happy hormones. Levels of dopamine and norepinephrine make us giddy, energetic, and euphoric, even leading to decreased appetite and insomnia, which means you actually can be so in love that you can't eat and can't sleep. When you're attracted to another person, your brain releases dopamine. Your serotonin levels decrease and your oxytocin is produced. This causes you to feel an urge of positive emotion. Serotonin is a hormone that often is known to be involved in appetite and mood. Interestingly, people who suffer from obsessive compulsive disorder also have low levels of serotonin, leading scientists to speculate that this is what underlies the overpowering infatuation that characterizes the beginning stages of love. This is the low levels of serotonin. Attachment is a slow process that builds and deepens over time. Bonding is about love, care, concern that are unique to your relationship. Having strong bonds gives you the sense of well-being. Oxytocin and vasopressin are neuropeptides synthesized in the hypothalamus and secreted from the posterior pituitary gland. Oxytocin was first described for its important role in stimulating uterine contractions and milk letdown after birth, while vasopressin is central to water homeostasis by regulating urine concentration at the level of the kidney. What does that have to do with attraction? In addition to these physiologic functions, both peptides mediate numerous social behaviors, such as facilitating the conditions for attachment relationships. An attachment bond includes a display of love and affection, such as touching, kissing, caressing, smiling. In both relationships, there's desire to be close to the attachment figure in times of need. There's anxiety and sadness when one is separated from the attachment figure, and there's happiness and a sense of relief when the attachment figure returns or is available again. The attachment figure, of course, being the other person to whom you're attached. Another essential for attachment bonds is that they are based on an attunement and responsiveness of the partner. If our attachment figures are sensitive to our needs, pay attention to us when we need them to, and respond to our bids for closeness, we feel secure in the relationship. So Mila, if you'll please go ahead and run the videos for us. And for those who speak Chinese, you'll find that of these five videos, that only one is not translated.
Okay, give me a couple seconds. Let me set it up.
Well, by the way, this morning's breakfast is brought to you by USANA Vanilla Nutrimeal Active. Delicious.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me share my screen. Oh, I forgot to share this. So, let me share.
Ovulation is a part of the menstrual cycle when the ovary releases a ripe egg, or ovum. Inside the ovary are hundreds of thousands of follicles. Each follicle is a hollow ball of cells with an immature egg in the center. The typical 28-day menstrual cycle begins on the first day of menstrual bleeding. During the first 7 days of the cycle, a few follicles begin to grow at the same time. These maturing follicles secrete estrogen hormone into the bloodstream to prepare the lining of the uterus for pregnancy. Around day 7, all of the follicles stop growing and begin to degenerate, except for one. This dominant follicle continues to grow and nourishes the developing egg inside it. Around day 12, the follicle secretes a large amount of estrogen.
Sorry?
We should be seeing this in Chinese at the bottom. Would you go to the settings on the video, which is a little gear?
Into the bloodstream.
Okay, just hit the settings. Okay, hit English, the little tab on English there. All right, then go down to Chinese. Go to auto translate. Go to auto translate. Okay, now go to Chinese, simplified. Okay, that should do it. Okay, you may have to do that to each one of these.
Okay, got it.
All right. Okay, thank you. We can go ahead and start.
When the estrogen reaches the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland in the brain, the anterior or front part of the pituitary gland releases a huge surge of luteinizing hormone into the bloodstream. Around day 14, luteinizing hormone causes the follicle to undergo a sudden growth spurt. Right before ovulation, the egg detaches from the inside of the follicle. The bulging follicle releases chemicals, causing one of the two fallopian tubes to move in closer and surround the follicle. The follicle swells until it bursts open, ejecting the egg and fluid from the follicle into the abdominal cavity. In response, the fimbriae, tiny projections at the end of the fallopian tube, sweep across the ovulation site and pick up the egg. Microscopic cilia on the fimbriae's surface transport the egg to the entrance of the fallopian tube. Inside the walls of the fallopian tube, muscular contractions gently push the egg towards the uterus. After ovulation, the egg lives for 12 to 24 hours, so it must be fertilized by a sperm from the male during this time for a woman to become pregnant. If it's not fertilized, the egg dissolves away and is shed along with the uterine lining during menstruation.
So the important part of this, is that we've been talking about how the ovarian cycle and ovulation, okay, actually change the hormones in a woman so that she becomes more interested in sex, becomes more lustful, so to speak, has a desire for sex. Her libido goes up, all right? So this is an important component to the relationship from lust to to attraction to attachment. Okay. Next video.
We like to think of romantic feelings as spontaneous and indescribable things that come from the
Okay,
heart.
go ahead and stop
But
it,
it's
Mila.
actually your
Go
brain
ahead.
running a complex
There you go. Once again, there. You want to go? Yep.
series of
Got it.
calculations within a matter of seconds that's responsible for determining attraction. Doesn't sound quite as poetic, does it? But just because the calculations are happening in your brain doesn't mean those warm, fuzzy feelings are all in your head. In fact, all 5 of your senses play a role, each able to vote for or veto a budding attraction. The eyes are the first components in attraction. Many visual beauty standards vary between cultures and eras, and signs of youth, fertility, and good health, such as long, lustrous hair or smooth, scar-free skin, are almost always in demand because they're associated with reproductive fitness. And when the eyes spot something they like, our instinct is to move closer so the other senses can investigate. The nose's contribution to romance is more than noticing perfume or cologne. It's able to pick up on natural chemical signals known as pheromones. These not only convey important physical or genetic information about their source, but are able to activate a physiological or behavioral response in the recipient. In one study, a group of women at different points in their ovulation cycles wore the same t-shirts for 3 nights. After male volunteers were randomly assigned to smell either one of the worn shirts or a new unworn one, saliva samples showed an increase in testosterone in those who had smelled a shirt worn by an ovulating woman. Such a testosterone boost may give a man the nudge to pursue a woman he might not have otherwise noticed. A woman's nose is particularly attuned to MHC molecules, which are used to fight disease. In this case, opposites attract. When a study asked women to smell t-shirts that had been worn by different men, they preferred the odors of those whose MHC molecules differed from theirs. This makes sense. Genes that result in a greater variety of immunities may give offspring a major survival advantage. Our ears also determine attraction. Men prefer females with high-pitched, breathy voices and wide formant spacing, correlated with smaller body size, while women prefer low-pitched voices with a narrow formant spacing that suggest a larger body size. And not surprisingly, touch turns out to be crucial for romance. In this experiment, not realizing the study had begun, participants were asked to briefly hold the coffee, either hot or iced. Later, the participants read a story about a hypothetical person and were asked to rate their personality. Those who had held the hot cup of coffee perceived the person in the story as happier, more social, more generous, and better-natured than those who had held the cup of iced coffee, who rated the person as cold, stoic, and unaffectionate. If a potential mate has managed to pass all these tests, there's still one more, the infamous first kiss, a rich and complex exchange of tactile and chemical cues, such as the smell of one's breath and the taste of their mouth. This magical moment is so critical that a majority of men and women have reported losing their attraction to someone after a bad first kiss. Once attraction is confirmed, your bloodstream is flooded with norepinephrine, activating your fight or flight system. Your heart beats faster, your pupils dilate, and your body releases glucose for additional energy. Not because you're in danger, but because your body is telling you that something important is happening. To help you focus, norepinephrine creates a sort of tunnel vision, blocking out surrounding distractions, possibly even warping your sense of time and enhancing your memory. This might explain why people never forget their first kiss. The idea of so much of our attraction being influenced by chemicals and evolutionary biology may seem cold and scientific rather than romantic, but the next time you see someone you like, try to appreciate how your entire body is playing matchmaker to decide if that beautiful stranger is right for you.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah. Amazing. You know, find all of these things that work together in order to bring us together. All right. Next one, Mila. And welcome to Alex and Lynn. Glad to have you here. Yeah, there's your Aunt Thecla right there. Okay, over to you, Lynn, to Gwen, Mila. I'm sorry. We got Glenn, Lynn's and Gwen's and okay,
Depend
you'll need to
heavily
go
on
same
visual
thing.
cues when looking for a mate, but at
Go ahead.
close proximity.
Yeah, same thing again, Mila. And it looks like we have English only capability here. All right, this one's the English only one.
Smells play an important role. Body odors can cause immediate attraction, and normally, women seek out men with body odors indicating that the person is less closely related, with an immune system different from theirs. Odors are indicative of genes in the major histocompatibility complex, or MHC. The MHC is a set of cell surface proteins that present foreign molecules, so your adaptive immune system can then fight off pathogens. Parts of the heavy chains of the MHC glycoproteins are present in saliva, urine, and sweat. Producing offspring with someone with different MHC genes is advantageous. The offspring end up with stronger immune systems. However, pregnant women have a flippant preference. They prefer smells indicating an immune system more similar to their own. This is an adaptation for women to want to care for their babies. Since the pill simulates the hormonal balance present during pregnancy, the same effect occurs. Hence, women on the pill seek out mates whom they would normally not find as attractive. Which brings us to the next point of interest. Women's choice of mate changes over the course of their menstrual cycles. Hormone level changes occurring over the cycle affect women's mood, behavior, and choice of mates. Before we look at these changes, here are the stages of the cycle, as well as hormone levels. The first half of the menstrual cycle is called the follicular phase. During this phase, menstruation occurs, and the ovaries prepare a new egg for release. The release of this egg is termed ovulation, and this occurs roughly halfway through the cycle. After release, an unfertilized egg can only survive about a day, so a woman is most fertile about 5 to 1 days before ovulation. Finally, we have the luteal phase, and the uterus thickens its lining in preparation for a potential pregnancy. In the days before and during ovulation, high levels of estrogen and androgens increase a woman's libido. During the fertile phase of the menstrual cycle, preferences may lean towards taller, more muscular men with more masculine faces and deeper voices. Some women may also experience more interest in men who are not their primary partner, and some may show more intense mate guarding. Changes in male odor preferences also occur. The scent of androsterone, which is responsible for testosterone levels, is especially attractive to women during their fertile phase. The odor of males who score higher on dominance and who have more symmetrical faces are rated as sexier during this time. Interestingly, during the luteal, aka non-fertile phase, women prefer men, and women, with more feminine faces. They also prefer faces that more strongly resemble their own. Shifts in desired trait preferences or attraction to facial features do not occur throughout the cycle for long-term mates. However, the previously mentioned changes in preference do not occur for women on the pill. The attraction doesn't just go one way. Evidence suggests that olfactory cues can tell men when women are ovulating, and this makes them seem more attractive. During the most fertile phase of the menstrual cycle, men rate female voices as significantly more attractive, and men experience a spike in testosterone levels when they detect the odor of an ovulating woman. Again, this effect is not applicable to women who are on the pill. It's not that their smell is found unattractive, they just don't have a spike in odor attractiveness that would occur otherwise at ovulation. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. It would help.
Right. So interestingly enough, then if you're on the pill or have somebody on the pill, their cycle of attraction, right, is different from someone who is not on the pill. Right? And they also are attracted to people that they would not normally be attracted during ovulation. So it's an interesting component to the psychology of attraction. All right, one more there, Mila.
You've heard the saying, love at first sight, right? Well, what about love at first scent? Maybe some of you out there have been thinking about buying some pheromones to put you on the fast track to romance. Before we get into whether or not that's a good idea, let's take a look at what pheromones are and if these things can actually affect the way we think. Entomologists first identified pheromones in 1959 as chemical substances that were used by insects to cause certain behavioral reactions in their peers. In other words, they were a pretty impressive form of chemical communication in the animal kingdom. As research developed, pheromones were identified in all walks of life, including human beings. However, studying pheromones in insects is a cakewalk compared to humans because we are far more complex creatures. There's also many kinds of pheromones out there. So let's focus on the pheromones called releasers, the ones that involve sexual attraction. Every individual lives in their own sensory world, and this is the main reason why studying pheromones is extremely difficult. Personal history or even the context of a perceived smell can affect an individual's response to it. For example, you might like the smell of gasoline because your dad was a mechanic. Someone else might hate it because they're in a car accident. Also, there isn't a standard setup for everyone's olfactory system, so each person has a different set of chemical sensors in their nose. Scientists haven't been able to isolate releasers in humans yet, and it very well could be due to these complications. So, if there aren't any isolated human releasers yet, what the heck are they putting on those love potions you buy online? Most of them contain trace amounts of these three volatile compounds. And believe it or not, folks, these are in fact real releasers, and they do work wonders, but only if you're a pig. And no, I'm not saying to put the pheromones on and act like a pig. I'm saying that these are compounds that have been isolated in pigs. So if you're feeling suave and dabbed a little bit of this stuff on your wrists, stay away from the farm. It's for your own good. Now you might be wondering, is there any legitimacy about these store-bought releasers, or is it all just one big cruel joke played on people starving for romance? Science has proven the existence and the effectiveness of these pheromones in pigs, yet a lot of the manufacturers of these pheromones claim that they work on humans through the use of a specialized chemical sensing tool called the vomeronasal organ. Well, folks, it doesn't look like they've done their research because the vomeronasal organ is basically just a shell in humans and isn't even wired to our brains. And on top of that, the chemical pheromones in their products aren't even detected by the vomeronasal organs of pigs. So we're pretty much left in the dark when it comes to lust-inspiring pig smells. So for all you out there looking for a quick path to romance, sorry to burst your bubble, but you're gonna have to do it the old-fashioned way.
Okay, funny story, but true, okay? So if you go online, you can buy pheromones, all right? And pheromones are attracted and so forth and the like. However, they have not identified yet the components of human pheromone, nor have they been able to capture what or how to commercialize that. So they don't use humans, okay? They use pigs. And as they were saying there, that the human receptors for that are not are not available. Now, the discussion of the receptors. Now, yes, we generate odors and we're perceptive to the odors, and we've shown that in the discussion and the studies and so forth, and that this gets through the olfactory system and somehow is then changed inside the olfactory system into wave signals that get into the hypothalamus. And we know that that's where the gonadotropin releasing hormones send signals to the pituitary gland. We also have known what is the third eye, and that's the pineal gland. And we think that between the pineal gland and the hypothalamus, that's how we're perceiving these olfactory signals that allow us to tell what's going on, whether we're a male or female. trying to read the signals of someone who we can smell. Now, keep in mind too that in order to get to the point of being able to achieve the pheromone exchange, that is the release and the receiving, you have to be close enough to do that. And that usually entails being inside of someone's personal space. Personal space is defined by each individual. However, it's usually where you get uncomfortable if somebody is not invited into your space. Okay, so that's how you tell the distance between two people. It's when you start feeling uncomfortable about personal space. So that is the distance at which pheromones do release and are received. Okay, does everybody got that there? And come back in. All right. So there's still tons of science left to do, as I was mentioning. That last study that actually showed was only in August of last summer. There's tons and tons more to be done on this, but we do know that there is a relationship, and therefore we can talk about it. Okay. Next video, Mila. Okay, this one is in Chinese. Okay, great.
All right, real quick.
Ooh. Ooh.
Valentine's Day is here, and love is in the air. Well, actually, a more accurate thing to say is our brains are hopped up on oxytocin. So what is oxytocin, and why is it considered the love hormone? Well, oxytocin is a neuropeptide, which means that it's a short-chain polypeptide that's used as a neurotransmitter, relaying a signal from one neuron to another. Oxytocin is released by the pituitary gland and binds to oxytocin receptors, which can be found on cells in the brain as well as the rest of the body. Oxytocin is crucial during the delivery of a baby. It helps with cervical dilation and contractions. Then, during breastfeeding, oxytocin gets released in response to a baby's suckling or even a baby's cry as part of the reflex that allows milk to be let down from the nipples. But oxytocin affects everyone, not just mothers. It promotes generosity and trust, decreases fear, and even helps people recover from negative social interactions. Oxytocin is also incredibly important for pair bonding, like in romantic relationships, increasing mood and feelings of attachment. And it's even thought to help with sexual arousal and orgasms. But it also plays a role in platonic relationships. For example, oxytocin levels rise in humans and dogs after they've spent time petting or playing together. However, for all its rosy effects, oxytocin does have some thorns.
Ooh.
Oxytocin facilitates bonding among people with shared characteristics, meaning that it makes us favor people that are like us in some way and have a bias against people who aren't like us. All of this to say that oxytocin plays a complex and nuanced role in the body. Happy Valentine's Day.
And there we have it. All right. So oxytocin in helping in developing the attachments. That is, you go the lust to attraction to attachment, and there are different things that happen in different ways. So the attachment is to develop that long-term relationship. So you get a long-term relationship between mother and baby, and also a long-term relationship between husband and wife or lovers. And the benefit there is that you're being able to feel closer and have these emotional attachments. It makes things more comfortable. Now, if you're attaching to somebody who is different, i.e. opposite attracts, right? Opposites attract, then you get into oxytocin, and then it fights that attraction. Why? Because it's looking for somebody who's similar to you. So the whole idea is, comes back to, you don't necessarily want to find somebody who is, in the attraction stage that is so different from you that you're going to reject them in the attachment stage. Okay. All right. So we fired up the gun, right? We fired up the gun with lust. right? You get that fire inside your belly, and you're ready to go, and you're all excited, and now you got to find somebody to share that lust with, right? That sexual desire, the detachment, the intent to be close and to be personal and to interact, and then you get into attachments, right? And you're developing this way of communicating each other and trying to get closer, right? To get two bodies to come closer together. And we know that your eyes operate through your pineal gland, all right, and they send signals back into your system, and then also your olfactory senses in your nose will send signals to your hypothalamus and cause you to generate the hormones associated with attachment. And then once you've gotten close, then you're going to want to stay close, and that is your vasopressin and oxytocin bring that about. All right, next slide. All right, I need to go back to share my screen again, Mila.
Yes.
All right, so I will do that. All right, so we've been through these presentations, and I hope you enjoyed them. It took a while to put them together. And let me get rid of this little box down here so it's no longer in the way. Hide that. And we'll go to the next slide. All right, so once again, to keep in mind that nutrition and behavioral health disorders, depression, and anxiety are all tied together, that suboptimal nutrition has been implicated in underlying pathology in behavioral health disorders and may impede treatment and recovery. So the corollary to that is in order to improve your ability to have healthy relationships, you need to make sure that you're getting your optimum amount of nutrition. Diet is immensely important when it comes to hormones because the energy and nutrients you obtain from food represent the raw materials needed to produce those hormones and to fuel your body. And keep in mind that no amount of great nutrition can overcome stupid. All right, so eating the wrong things is detrimental to your hormonal balance and to your health. It's also bad for your business, and that is, it's bad for your ability to be healthy, and therefore the amount of stress increases the number of free radicals. The free radicals increases your inflammation, and that decreases your overall health and does create things like cancer and other diseases that are associated with long-term illness. Right. Also, looking at all the ingredients that go into the makeup of just the estrogen molecule reveals that it takes a lot of things in the right amounts to be able to do that. And in order to figure out how to get all of these chemicals and nutrients and vitamins and minerals into your body in the right amounts to generate the right results is a scientific puzzle. And thank God for the scientists at USANA, because they've done that for you. And in so doing, these are all in your health pack. And if we relate back to what we're calling cholesterol, is only found in foods that come from animals. There is no cholesterol in foods that come from plants. So there is no cholesterol in fruits, vegetables, grains, seeds, nuts, and peas. Therefore, why is that important to you? Well, just look at the translation between cholesterol. It is the foundation for many of your very, very important hormones. So it's the cholesterol that is broken down in your body and then is recreated through your cells to form these important hormones, including testosterone and including progesterone and including estrogens. 3 very different estrogens. All right, so we've been through this, and it's been a great trip, and we're almost to the end, and we're down to intimacy. And I'll just show you the list here. Again, in blue up here, there's a highlight for a reference that goes into individual hormones. And then down below, there is a list of videos to be watched and presentations to be seen that are done by Dr. Ladd McNamara, who has gratefully put together these things for our USANA customers. And you have an opportunity then to take this from the presentation and to look at them in your leisure. So the next class, and I just wanted to highlight again that we're in Americas and Europe on a Fridays, and we're in Asia on a Saturday, but it's all at the same time. So it's a simulcast, and we're at Indonesia time, Indochina time here, excuse me, in Thailand. And it just happens to start at 9 a.m. In China at 10 a.m. In Alaska at 5 p.m. on the previous Friday. So we were on Saturdays and they're on Fridays because of the international date line, not because we're at different times. So everybody at the same time, actually, but in the time that's appropriate for you. And next week is intimacy. What are you afraid to know? And so next time, we will see you on the HealthEagle show. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. And now, Mila, go ahead.